Namaste, I am Dr. Rinki Jadwani, Adjunct Faculty in Delhi Technological University. I welcome you all to this lecture titled Euthanasia, Some Ethical Concerns. In this lecture, we will discuss some arguments in the favor of euthanasia and the arguments which are given against this practice of euthanasia. With this, we will also going to discuss the debate on the issue of allowing active euthanasia and passive euthanasia. In the previous introductory lecture on this topic, euthanasia, I explained the concept of euthanasia in detail with its historical background, and along with this, I also discussed its various types. In this lecture, it is mainly focused on some important ethical debates on this topic, which revolves around the arguments presented in support and which are presented against it. Arguments about euthanasia often hinge on the topic of right to life and secondly, right to die. The first is a widely accepted basic human right and moral value based on the fact that people generally want to live. But what should we do when seriously ill people no longer want to live? Do they have a right to die? Euthanasia has become the most active area of research in contemporary bioethics. So, like many problems of medical ethics, this has become a more pressing in recent times. A century ago, most people died quite quickly and probably painfully if they had serious injuries or illness. Nowadays, they can be treated, sometimes cured, and often kept alive. Codes of conduct formulated centuries ago, for example, those found in sacred text or the Hippocratic Oath, cannot necessarily help us with 20th century problems of medical ethics. Starting with the arguments which are given in support of euthanasia. So the first is the argument called right-based argument. So advocates of euthanasia argue that the patient has the right to make the decision about when and how they should die. This is based on the principle of autonomy and the right of an individual to his life and her body. So it is said that competent patients should be able to make life and death decisions for themselves. Rights to one's own body and death. The right to life also includes the right to die. People should have the right to shorten the process of death and therefore reduce the pain. By refusing a terminally ill patient's request to die, the state is in some way violating the person's fundamental rights. The humanist view, which is given in support of the practice of euthanasia, is as follows. So, humanist concern for quality of life and respect for personal autonomy. It leads to the view that in many circumstances, voluntary euthanasia is morally right thing to do. People should have the right to choose a painless and dignified end or death, either at the time or beforehand, perhaps in a living will. The response which is given to this humanist view is first, personal autonomy does not give us the right to demand that a physician ends our life. The second response which is given to this humanist view and against the view of autonomy is, if autonomy is respected above all, physician will become merely a hired hand or technician and nothing else. So those who are against this practice of euthanasia would say the argument of allowing euthanasia out of respect for patient's autonomy is simply not compatible with the practice of medicine. The practice of medicine is not just about going along with anything a patient requests, even if said patient is fully competent. If this was the case, then there would be no need for the expertise of a physician. Daniel Callahan argues against the argument of allowing active euthanasia out of respect for patients' autonomy. So he says that euthanasia is no longer a matter only of self-determination, but of a mutual social decision between two people, the one which is to be killed and the other to do the killing. So, personal autonomy does not give us the right to demand that a physician will a physician can end a life of a patient. The second argument which is given in favor of this practice of euthanasia is the argument from mercy. So, this argument states that terminally ill patients sometimes suffer so much pain and suffering that it is better to end that life through this practice of euthanasia. The advocates of euthanasia give utilitarian argument to support their stand. The utilitarian had argued that any action is morally right if it serves to increase the amount of happiness in the world and if it reduces the misery in the world. Conversely, an action that increases misery or suffering is morally wrong. Conclusively, the argument from mercy states that an action that allows killing of persons at their request reduces the pain and misery of the patient. Therefore, such a practice or act is morally right. There are two major motivations for allowing active euthanasia. The first is respect for patients' autonomy, and the second one is compassion. So, Daniel Callahan says that if we really believe in self-determination, then any competent person should have a right to be killed by a doctor for any reason that suits him. Secondly, if we believe in the relief of suffering, then it seems cruel to deny it to the incompetent. That is, we should give chance to the competent as well as the incompetent patients. The other argument which is given in support of this practice of euthanasia is people say that death is a private matter. So the state does not tell us how to live our personal lives as long as we live by the law. Death is somewhat uncomfortable aspect of our lives that we may not want to consider until it is necessary. But when we are ready to face death, whether it is our own or that of a family member, it should be an entirely private matter. It should be left up to us and to our loved ones. Now coming to the arguments which are given against this practice of euthanasia, the first argument which is given is about the sanctity of life. The argument that is given against euthanasia centers around the principle of sanctity of human life. Human life is to be respected and preserved. It should be protected whatever happens in our lives. As we all know that euthanasia allows the intentional killing of another person, so the practice of euthanasia weakens society's respect for the sanctity of life. It allows the abuse of the autonomy and human rights. A person who is not in a position to decide for his or her life is allowed to be killed. Therefore, euthanasia contravenes the concept of life, the sanctity of life. Accepting euthanasia accepts that some lives, those of the disabled or sick, are worth less than others. The second argument which is given against this practice of euthanasia is slippery slope argument, and this argument says that if we allow voluntary euthanasia, then in the future doctors will allow non-voluntary euthanasia as well as involuntary euthanasia. So voluntary euthanasia is the start of a slippery slope that leads to involuntary and non-voluntary euthanasia and the killing of people who are thought undesirable. So if euthanasia is legalized, it may lead to some social abuses and the society may be confronted with a slippery slope argument. Now, what is this slippery slope fallacy or slippery slope argument? In a slippery slope argument, a course of action is rejected because with little or no evidence, one insists that it will lead to a chain reaction resulting in an undesirable end or ends. The slippery slope involves an acceptance of a succession of events without any direct evidence that this course of event will happen. People who are against this practice of euthanasia say that legalized euthanasia will have seriously bad consequences and it could be abused by the doctors, by members of the family, and by other interested parties who might put pressure on the patient to end their lives. There is another argument which is given against this act or practice of euthanasia, which is a religious argument. It states that every human being is the creation of God and that this imposes certain limits on us. Our lives are not only our lives for us to do with as we see fit. So, to kill oneself or to get someone else to do it for us is to deny God and to deny God's rights over our lives and His right to choose the length of our lives and the way our lives end. Therefore, this practice of euthanasia is against the will and the word of God. So God has forbidden it. Virtually all religions in their scriptures say that you must not kill. Therefore, carrying out any of these would be against God's command and would be an attack on the sovereignty of God. Next argument is coming from the law of karma, that suffering may have value, freedom, and it gives you the freedom from worldly life. So Hinduism and Buddhism see moral life as part of continuing cycle in which we take birth, we live and die and are reborn over and over again. During each cycle of life and death, human beings make progress towards their ultimate aim, which is liberation. Thus, shortening life interferes with this law of karma. There are some practical arguments which are given against this practice of euthanasia, like proper palliative care could make euthanasia unnecessary. The second argument which is given against this is euthanasia gives the caretaker an opportunity to have an easy escape from his or her responsibilities. The next we can give against this practice of euthanasia is that we humans have a natural inclination to fight for our survival, and euthanasia and its practice go against this natural inclination. And permitting euthanasia could undermine the commitment of doctors and nurses to save the lives of patients. It takes away hope from the patient and a belief that there could be a miraculous cure. Therefore, allowing euthanasia could discourage the search for new modes of treatment for the terminally ill patients. The next topic is the debate on active and passive euthanasia. Thinkers say that there is no difference between active and passive euthanasia. So, when we can allow passive euthanasia, we should also allow active euthanasia as well. So, the argument which is given is that there is a moral difference between killing and letting die. Killing is related to the concept of active euthanasia, while letting die is related to the concept of passive euthanasia. Killing is morally worse than letting die. The defenders of euthanasia, like James Rachels, argues that killing and letting die are equivalent. We all know that passive euthanasia is used to reduce the suffering of patients. If the intention is to reduce suffering, then active euthanasia is more effective at reducing suffering than the passive euthanasia. So, when passive euthanasia is justified or permitted, active euthanasia is justified even more because they both have the same goal, but active euthanasia does the job in a more effective way. Active euthanasia is better at reducing suffering of the patient than passive euthanasia. So, it is said that there is no moral distinction between allowing someone to die and actively assisting them to die in these circumstances, because the intention and the outcome, which is the death of the patient, are the same in both cases. The response which is given to this statement that there is no difference between killing and letting die is as follows, that this statement or claim fails to distinguish between causality and culpability. Now, what do we mean by these two terms, causality and culpability? As we all know that active euthanasia directly causes death, but when I'm saying culpable, so it does not mean that it is causing death. Culpable means morally responsible for a wrong. So physicians may be culpable in cases of passive euthanasia, but they do not cause the death of patient directly. So the discontinuation of life-sustaining treatment does not produce the effect of death. It only influences the time of its occurrence. Daniel Callahan has aptly illustrated this difference of causality. He says that the lethal injection kills both the ill as well as the healthy person. The discontinuation of life-sustaining treatment, however, only causes the death of the mortally ill, whereas on the healthy, it would have no effect at all. In sum, we can say that this lecture presented a detailed discussion on ethical issues and concerns regarding the act of euthanasia and the arguments which are usually given in support of this practice, and as well as the arguments which are usually given against this practice or act of euthanasia. I hope this lecture would be helpful in understanding these above discussed topics. Thank you.